The Judgment. The observation deck of the Celestial Forum stretched impossibly wide, its walls made of transparent material that seemed to hold back the vacuum of space through sheer force of will. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood at the diplomatic podium, her emerald dress uniform pressed to perfection, her dark hair pulled back in a style that spoke of professionalism and hope. Behind her, the blue marble of Earth hung in the distance, small and fragile against the cosmic backdrop. She had rehearsed this speech for months. Honored members of the Galactic Congress, Elena began, her voice steady despite the trembling in her chest. For 20 years, humanity has walked among you. We have shared our music, our medicine, our dreams. We have fought beside you against the Kryn invasion. We have mourned your losses and celebrated your victories. Around her, the amphitheater filled with beings beyond imagination. Crystalline entities that refracted light into impossible colors. Beings of pure energy contained in elegant biomechanical forms. Species that communicated through scent, through touch, through quantum fluctuations. All of them listening. All of them judging. Commander Cale Reeves watched from the Earth delegation section, his jaw tight, his scarred hands gripping the railing. He'd told Elena this was a mistake. 20 years wasn't enough time to prove anything to species that counted their histories in millennia. But she'd insisted. She'd believed. We come before you today, Elena continued, not as petitioners, but as partners. We ask for nothing more than what we have already given, cooperation, friendship, and a seat at the table of galactic civilization. A ripple passed through the assembly. Not approval. Something else. High Chancellor Zyn rose from the central dais, their form resembling liquid mercury frozen mid-splash, geometric patterns rotating within their translucent body. Their voice, when it came, bypassed the ears entirely and resonated directly in the mind. Dr. Vasquez. Your words are eloquent. Your species' contributions have been noted and catalogued. The pause felt intentional, cruel. The Congress has completed its evaluation of humanity's application for full membership status. Elena felt her pulse quicken. This was it. 20 years of work, of sacrifice, of proving humanity deserved to walk among the stars. The vote was unanimous, Zyn announced. Relief flooded through Elena's chest. Humanity is hereby denied membership and sentenced to permanent quarantine within the Sol system. The words didn't make sense at first. Elena's smile remained frozen on her face, her brain refusing to process what she'd just heard. Around her, the alien delegates began speaking in overlapping harmonics, their tones carrying not sympathy but satisfaction. I don't understand, Elena managed, her voice small suddenly. We've met every requirement. We've passed every test. The tests were never about qualification, Zyn replied, and now Elena could hear something like pity in their mental voice. They were about evaluation. And we have evaluated you thoroughly. A holographic display materialized above the assembly, showing footage Elena had never seen before. Human soldiers adapting alien weapons mid-battle. Engineers reverse engineering technology in weeks that had taken other species centuries to develop. Scientists making intuitive leaps that defied their limited data. You are too adaptive, Zyn continued. Too creative. Too hungry. In 3 generations, you would surpass species that have existed for 10,000 years. In 10 generations, you would dominate us all. That's not, Elena started, but Zyn's mental voice cut through hers like a knife. The decision is final. You have 72 hours to evacuate all human personnel from extrasolar space. Any human ships found beyond the heliopause after that deadline will be destroyed without warning. This is not negotiable. This is not temporary. This is forever. The connection severed. The holographic Earth behind Elena flickered and died. Cale was beside her in an instant, his hand on her elbow, steadying her as her legs threatened to give out. We're leaving, he said quietly, his voice like gravel. Now. The walk back to their shuttle felt endless. Alien delegates parted around them like water around stone, none meeting Elena's eyes. At the docking bay, one figure waited, Ambassador Thora of the Sylvari Confederation, her form resembling a willow tree made of soft light, her expression sorrowful. "I voted against this," Thora said softly, her voice like wind through leaves. "For what little it matters now." "Why?" Elena's voice cracked on the word. "Why did they really do this?" Thora's luminous form dimmed. "Because they're afraid. Because in all their millennia of existence, they've never encountered a species quite like yours. And fear makes civilizations do terrible things." The shuttle doors closed. As they lifted away from the forum, Elena finally allowed herself to break. Kale pulled her close, and she buried her face against his chest, her body shaking with silent sobs. "We'll find a way through this," Kale murmured into her hair, though his voice carried no conviction. Below them, Earth waited, beautiful, isolated, and suddenly very alone. "Would you like me to continue with part 2? The the emergency session in Geneva's Unity Hall was chaos incarnate. Representatives from every Earth nation shouted over each other, their voices echoing off the vaulted ceiling where humanity's greatest achievements had once been celebrated. Now those same murals, depicting humans and aliens working together, felt like monuments to a lie. Elena stood at the central podium, exhausted. She hadn't slept in the 3 days since returning from the forum. None of them had. "Order." Secretary General Morrison's voice cut through the din. "Dr. Vasquez has the floor." Elena activated the holographic display, showing supply projections that made her stomach turn. "Without access to galactic trade routes, we're facing critical shortages within 6 months. Rare earth elements for our technology. Medical compounds we can't synthesize. Even basic foodstuffs. We've been supplementing Earth's agriculture with off-world crops for 15 years. Then we break the quarantine," snapped General Tchaikovsky, his fist slamming the table. "We have ships. We have weapons. They can't blockade an entire star system." "They don't need to," Kale replied from his position near the security station. His face looked carved from granite, dark circles under his eyes. "They've positioned automated defense platforms at every jump point. Any ship that tries to leave gets vaporized. We've already lost 3 scout vessels testing the perimeter." A woman's voice cut through the murmurs, soft, accented, and terrifying in its calmness. "Perhaps there's another way." Every head turned. Standing in the doorway was a figure that shouldn't have been there. Her form resembled flowing silver water frozen mid-motion, delicate patterns of light dancing across her surface. A Sylvari. Security moved instantly, weapons raised. Kale's hand went to his sidearm. "Wait." Elena called out, recognizing her. "That's Lyra. She's Thora's aide." Was Thora's aide, Lyra corrected, moving slowly into the room, her movements liquid and graceful. "I've been exiled for what I'm about to show you." She produced a data crystal that pulsed within her light. The quarantine wasn't decided 3 days ago. It was planned 17 years ago, shortly after first contact. Every cultural exchange, every technological demonstration, it was all surveillance. They've been cataloging your capabilities, mapping your psychology, waiting for the right moment to contain you. Dr. James Park, Earth's chief xenotechnology specialist, practically lunged for the crystal. His fingers trembled as he inserted it into the analysis terminal. Data flooded across screens, surveillance reports, psychological profiles, military assessments. Thousands of pages documenting humanity's every move. "My God," James breathed. "They've been watching us the entire time. Every innovation we shared, they catalogued as a threat. Every diplomatic gesture, they analyzed for hidden aggression." Elena felt something cold settle in her chest. "Show me the conclusion. What was their final assessment?" James scrolled to the end. The words appeared in clinical, translated text: "Species demonstrates unprecedented adaptive capability. Probability of surpassing current galactic power structures within 200 to 500 standard years, 94.7%. Recommendation: permanent containment before technological/military parity is achieved. Risk level: civilization ending. The room fell silent. They were never going to let us in, Elena said quietly. This was always the plan. Kale moved to her side, his presence solid and grounding. Then we need a new plan. That night, Elena found Kale on the roof of the Unity Hall, staring up at stars they could no longer reach. The city lights below created a soft glow, but the sky above felt darker than it ever had before. I keep thinking about the speech I gave, Elena said, joining him at the railing. How naive I sounded. Talking about friendship and partnership. You weren't naive, Kale replied. You were hopeful. There's a difference. Is there? She laughed bitterly. Hope didn't stop them from caging us like animals. Kale turned to face her fully, his weathered face softening in ways few people ever saw. Elena. You spent 20 years building bridges. That took courage. What they did, that's on them, not you. I should have listened to you. You always said they'd never accept us. I didn't want to be right. His hand found hers on the railing, calloused fingers intertwining with hers. I've spent my whole career preparing for the worst. But watching you work, seeing you believe in something better. I wanted that to be right more than I've ever wanted anything. Elena looked up at him, seeing past the soldier's mask to the man underneath. What do we do now? We survive, Kale said simply. It's what humans do best. He reached up, brushing a strand of hair from her face, his touch gentle despite his warrior's hands. And we do it together. She leaned into him, and he wrapped his arms around her, solid and warm against the cold night air. For a moment, the weight of impossible responsibility lifted. For a moment, they were just two people finding comfort in each other as their world fell apart. Together, Elena whispered against his chest, feeling his heartbeat strong and steady. Below them, in secure facilities across the globe, teams began working on contingencies. Dr. Park analyzed the stolen data, looking for weaknesses in galactic technology. Captain Yuna Chen, commander of Earth's covert operations, started making contact with her network of operatives embedded on alien worlds. And Lyra, the exiled Sylvari, began compiling a list of other species who might harbor resentment toward the Congress's tyranny. The quarantine was meant to be humanity's end. But as Elena and Kale stood together under stolen stars, a different possibility began to take shape. Not acceptance. Not integration, revolution. The underground ALLNC 6 months after the quarantine began, Elena Vasquez no longer resembled the idealistic diplomat who'd stood before the Galactic Congress. Her hair, now streaked with premature silver, was pulled back in a practical braid. Her diplomatic dress uniform had been replaced with tactical gear. Her eyes, once warm with hope, now carried the sharp focus of someone who'd learned hard lessons. The hidden base on Titan was a marvel of desperate engineering. Carved into the moon's icy crust, it housed 300 people, humans and aliens, who'd become the nucleus of something the galaxy had never seen before, a rebellion against the established order. We've confirmed 3 more systems, Captain Yuna Chen reported, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. The young officer's reputation for impossible operations had made her legendary in intelligence circles. The Kresh Dominion, the Outer Reach Collective, and surprisingly, a faction within the Vorian Empire. All expressing interest in alternative arrangements. Elena studied the star map, each potential ally represented by a pulsing light. What's their motivation? Same as ours, came a rough voice from the doorway. Draven slouched into the command center, his chitinous exoskeleton clicking softly with each movement. The insectoid smuggler had made a fortune running the Congress's blockade. Nobody likes being told what they can and can't do. Congress has been squeezing the frontier worlds for centuries. You humans just said out loud what everyone was thinking. Ambassador Thora materialized beside him, her light form dimmer than it had been before her exile. The Congress maintains power through a carefully balanced system of fear and dependency. But that system only works if everyone believes it's inevitable. You've shown them it's not. By being locked in our own star system. Elena couldn't keep the bitterness from her voice. By surviving, Thora corrected gently. By refusing to simply fade away. Every day you endure is a day that proves their containment strategy has limits. Other species are watching. Wondering. If humans can defy the Congress, what else might be possible? Kale entered carrying secure data tablets, his presence immediately grounding the room's energy. Over the past months, he and Elena had become inseparable, professionally and personally. The way his eyes sought hers first upon entering, the slight relaxation in his shoulders when he found her safe, spoke of a bond forged in crisis. Dr. Park's analysis is complete, Kale announced, distributing the tablets. The Congress's quantum communication network has a vulnerability. It's designed to be impossible to hack from the outside, but if someone were already inside the system, we could broadcast anything we wanted, Elena finished, understanding immediately. Show the entire galaxy what the Congress really is. We'd need access to a primary hub, Una noted, already pulling up schematics. There are only 12 in existence, all on heavily fortified worlds. Draven's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. I know a way into the hub on Calera Station. Won't be easy, and we'll need to move fast, but it's possible. Then we start planning Operation Daybreak, Elena decided. We expose everything, the surveillance, the manipulation, every dirty secret the Congress has been hiding. The meeting continued for hours, strategies forming and reforming as they worked through contingencies. When the others finally departed, Elena remained in the command center, staring at the impossible task ahead. Kale stayed behind, moving quietly to her side. You should rest. You've been awake for 36 hours. Can't sleep, Elena admitted. Every time I close my eyes, I see that vote. Unanimous. Not one voice stood up for us except Thora, and look what it cost her. Then don't think about them. Kale turned her chair to face him, kneeling so they were eye level. Think about what we're building. This coalition, it's bigger than revenge. It's about creating something better than what came before. Elena traced the scar along his jawline, a souvenir from the early days of first contact when not every meeting had been peaceful. When did the cynical soldier become an optimist? When the optimistic diplomat taught me what hope actually looks like, he replied, catching her hand and pressing it to his cheek. You haven't given up, Elena. Despite everything, you're still fighting for that better world. That's not naivety. That's strength. She leaned forward, resting her forehead against his. I couldn't do this without you. You won't have to. His lips found hers, gentle at first, then deeper as months of tension and fear transformed into something warmer. When they finally parted, both were breathless. The observation deck, Elena whispered. I need to see the stars. They made their way through the base's corridors to the pressurized dome that served as Titan's window to the cosmos. The artificial gravity generators hummed softly beneath their feet. Above them, Saturn hung massive and magnificent, its rings catching the distant sun's light. I used to think the universe was infinite possibility, Elena said, leaning against Kale as he wrapped his arms around her from behind. Now I know it's infinite struggle. Maybe it's both, Kale murmured into her hair. Maybe possibility requires struggle. Nothing worth having comes easy. She turned in his arms, looking up at him with eyes that held both sorrow and determination. Promise me something. Whatever happens with Operation Daybreak, whatever comes next, promise we'll see this through together. Together, Kale agreed, sealing the promise with another kiss, this one slower, deeper, full of all the things they couldn't say aloud. Around them, the universe spun on, indifferent to the small acts of defiance happening in its shadows, but those small acts were growing. Building. Spreading like cracks in ancient ice, the galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its adaptability or creativity, that it was their absolute refusal to accept that anything was impossible. The rebellion ignites. The Calera station hub loomed before them like a mechanical city, its spires bristling with defensive weapons and sensor arrays. Elena watched from the pilot's seat of the stealth ship Prometheus, her hands steady on controls she'd learned to master over months of training. 3 minutes to optimal window, Una reported from the tactical station. The young captain had transformed the Prometheus into something the Congress's sensors couldn't properly classify, too small to be a threat, too sophisticated to be a simple cargo hauler. Draven, you're certain about this access route? Kale asked from the security station, his eyes scanning multiple threat displays simultaneously. The smuggler's mandibles clicked with amusement. I've used it 17 times. Course, I was usually carrying contraband spices, not planning galactic insurrection. Big difference in stakes. Comforting, Elena muttered, but she trusted Draven. The cynical smuggler had proven reliable, even if his motivations were questionable. According to him, he just liked betting on long shots. According to Thora, who understood his species better, he'd lost family to the Congress's frontier stabilization campaigns years ago. Approaching docking collar 7, Elena announced. Transponder codes are holding. The station's automated systems accepted their forged credentials. Docking clamps engaged with metallic thuds that reverberated through the hull. They were in. 30 minutes until the guard shift change, Una said, pulling on her infiltration gear. That's our window. The team moved through Calera Station's maintenance corridors with practiced precision. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs, but her breathing remained controlled. Months of training with Kale had taught her how to channel fear into focus. They encountered their first obstacle at security checkpoint Delta, 2 Vorian guards, their crystalline bodies refracting the corridor's harsh lighting. Let me, Thora said, stepping forward. Her light form shifted, adopting the harmonic frequencies of official business. The Vorian guards stiffened to attention, responding to protocols buried deep in their consciousness. Within seconds, they'd stepped aside, allowing the team passage. Neat trick, Draven muttered. One I'll pay for later, Thora replied, her form flickering with strain. Vorian guards report mental intrusion attempts. We have perhaps 10 minutes before alarms sound. They ran. The quantum hub chamber was both beautiful and terrifying, a sphere of pure energy suspended in a magnetic field, its surface rippling with information flowing across 1,000 worlds. Dr. Park had compared it to humanity's internet, except instantaneous and spanning the entire galaxy. There, Una pointed to an access terminal. That's our injection point. Elena pulled out the data core containing Operation Daybreak, everything they'd compiled over 6 months. Evidence of the Congress's surveillance programs. Proof of their systematic exploitation of frontier worlds. Testimony from exiled species like Thora and Lyra. And humanity's story, told in their own words, showing exactly what the civilization-ending threat actually looked like. Once this uploads, Elena said, her hand hovering over the activation key, there's no going back. Every species in the galaxy will see what the Congress has been hiding. Some will join us. Some will hunt us. But everything changes. Good, Kale said firmly. It's time for a change. Elena pressed the key. The hub flared brilliant white as the data cascade began. Alarms shrieked throughout the station. The team ran back through corridors that were now flooding with security forces. Contact front. Kale shouted, his weapon already up. Energy bolts seared past them as Vorian soldiers engaged. Kale returned fire with practiced precision, each shot finding its mark. They were pinned down, trapped in a maintenance junction with guards closing from both directions. Elena's tactical mind ran through scenarios, each one ending badly. Then the station's lights flickered. The hub's energy signature was fluctuating wildly as Operation Daybreak spread through the quantum network like wildfire. The distraction gave them seconds. Move. Una commanded, triggering a shaped charge that blew through a bulkhead, creating a new route to the docking bay. They made it to the Prometheus with security forces right behind them. Elena threw herself into the pilot's seat, her fingers flying across controls. Docking clamps released. The ship lurched away from the station just as weapons batteries began targeting their position. "Jump drive spooling," she called out. 20 seconds. An energy blast caught their port side, alarms screaming as systems failed. The ship tumbled, artificial gravity cutting out. Debris floated through the cabin. 15 seconds, Elena continued, fighting to stabilize their spin. Cale was beside her suddenly, his hand covering hers on the controls, helping her compensate for the damaged thrusters. Together, they brought the ship back under control. 10 seconds. More weapons fire. The shields were failing. Elena could see the countdown in her peripheral vision, each number feeling like an eternity. 5 seconds. A massive blast erupted ahead of them, Calera Station's defense platform, charging its main weapon. One shot from that would vaporize them completely. "Jump now!" Cale shouted. Elena slammed the activation control. Reality twisted. They emerged in dark space, light years from danger. For several heartbeats, nobody spoke, the only sound their ragged breathing and the ship's damaged systems struggling to maintain function. "Did it work?" Draven finally asked. Una pulled up the quantum network monitoring systems they'd tapped into. Her face broke into a fierce smile. "It's spreading. Every major hub in the galaxy is receiving the data. They can't shut it down fast enough. In another hour, every species with quantum access will have seen everything." "Then we've done it," Thora said softly. "The galaxy knows the truth." Elena felt Cale's hand find hers again, squeezing gently. She squeezed back, allowing herself a moment to breathe. But the moment was brief. Una's expression changed, her eyes widening as new data flowed across her screens. "We're getting response signals. Multiple systems. Oh my God, Elena. They're mobilizing. Not against us, with us. The Kresh Dominion just declared independence from the Congress. The Outer Reach Collective is openly supporting our coalition. Even some of the core worlds are demanding answers from the High Chancellor." Elena stood, moving to the observation window where the stars stretched endlessly. Somewhere out there, across those infinite distances, millions of beings were making a choice. Keep accepting the way things had always been, or dare to imagine something different. "This is just the beginning," she said quietly. "The Congress won't surrender power willingly." Cale joined her at the window, his arms sliding around her waist. "Then we'll take it from them. Not through domination. Through democracy. Through giving everyone the choice we were denied." She leaned into him, feeling his solid strength, his unwavering support. "You know they'll come for us now. With everything they have." "Let them," Cale replied. "We're not alone anymore." Behind them, Una coordinated with their growing network of allies. Thora contacted her people, rallying support among the Sylvari. Draven plotted routes through systems that were rapidly choosing sides. Dr. Park analyzed defensive options for the growing number of worlds declaring for the coalition. The rebellion had ignited. The galaxy would never be the same. And in the darkness between stars, Elena and Cale held each other, finding strength for the battles ahead in the simple fact of their connection. They'd lost so much. But they'd found something too. Purpose. Community. Love. The things worth fighting for. A new dawn. 3 months after Operation Daybreak, the galaxy was at war with itself. Not the kind of war the Congress understood, neat, controlled, following millennia-old protocols. This was chaos. Messy. Unpredictable. Human. Elena stood on the bridge of the Unity, a retrofitted colony ship that served as the rebellion's mobile headquarters. Around her, Holographic displays showed the strategic situation. 47 systems had openly joined the coalition, another 100 were in active revolt, and the Congress's once unshakable authority was fracturing like ancient ice. Fleet status, she called out, her voice carrying the authority of someone who transformed from diplomat to revolutionary leader. 12 battle groups assembled at the rally points, Una reported. The young captain now commanded a navy cobbled together from human vessels, smuggler ships, and defectors from a dozen different species. The Silvari Confederation sent another 300 ships. They're officially all in. Kale studied the tactical overview, his brow furrowed. The Congress is gathering its loyalist forces at Zentera Prime. That's the homeworld of the High Chancellor's species. They're making their stand there. Then that's where we go, Elena decided. It's a trap, Draven warned, his mandibles clicking nervously. They'll have every defensive system in the galaxy protecting that world. We'll be flying into a meat grinder. Maybe, Elena agreed. But we're not going there to fight. We're going there to talk. The journey to Zentera Prime took 2 weeks, every hour filled with the tension of impending confrontation. The coalition fleet was massive now, over 2,000 ships from 100 different species, all united by a simple idea, that no single authority should control the fate of civilizations. During the quiet moments, Elena and Kale found sanctuary in each other. One night, as the fleet transited through jump space, they stood together in the observation dome, watching the impossible colors of hyperspace flow past. I keep thinking about that first day, Elena said, her head resting on Kale's shoulder. Standing before the Congress, so sure that reason and good faith would be enough. You weren't wrong to believe that, Kale replied, his fingers tracing gentle patterns on her arm. You were just early. The galaxy wasn't ready for what you were offering. It took everything that came after to make them ready. Will they listen now? Or will this end in bloodshed? Kale turned her to face him, his hands cupping her face gently. Whatever happens, you've already changed everything. There's no going back to the way things were. That's victory, Elena. Everything else is just details. She kissed him then, pouring months of fear and hope and love into that connection. When they finally parted, both were smiling despite the impossible odds ahead. Promise me something, Elena whispered. After this is over, after we've built this new galaxy, promise we'll find somewhere quiet. Just for a while. Somewhere we can just be Elena and Kale, not the leaders of a revolution. I promise, Kale said, sealing it with another kiss. I'll take you to that beach in Australia I told you about. The one where the stars touch the ocean. We'll watch the sunrise and remember when the universe felt infinite. It still is infinite, Elena replied. We're just brave enough to explore it now. The fleet emerged from jump space in formation, surrounding Zentera Prime in a careful blockade. The loyalist forces waited in defensive positions, weapons charged but not firing. An uneasy standoff. Open a channel, Elena commanded. All frequencies. I want every being on that planet and every ship in this system to hear this. Her face appeared on a billion screens simultaneously, human and alien alike. The woman who'd been judged, exiled, and counted out. The woman who'd refused to accept impossible. High Chancellor Zyn. Members of the Galactic Congress. People of Zentera Prime and all the worlds watching. Elena's voice was calm, carrying the weight of hard-won wisdom. 3 months ago, you tried to end this with a vote. You decided that fear was safer than coexistence. That control was better than freedom. That the old ways, no matter how unjust, were preferable to the uncertainty of change. She paused, letting her words sink in across light years. But fear is not strength. Control is not peace. And the old ways were built on lies, lies we've exposed for everyone to see. You surveilled us. You manipulated dozens of species. You maintained power not through justice, but through intimidation. That ends today. On the planet below, in the Congress's ancient chambers, High Chancellor Zyn watched the human woman with something approaching respect. They'd underestimated her species catastrophically. Treated them as a problem to be contained rather than partners to be embraced. That mistake had cost them everything. We have 2,000 ships here, Elena continued. We could fight. Many of you expect us to. But we didn't come here for conquest. We came here to offer you the same thing you denied us, a choice. Murmurs rippled through both fleets. This wasn't what anyone had expected. Join us in building something new. A council of free worlds where every species has a voice, where power comes from consent rather than dominance, where young civilizations aren't punished for their potential. Or don't. Remain with the Congress, try to maintain the old order. But understand that the galaxy has changed. We've shown everyone that your authority isn't inevitable. Other systems will keep choosing freedom over control. Elena took a deep breath, delivering her final offer. This can end peacefully. Or it can end in bloodshed. That choice is yours, High Chancellor. But choose quickly. Because we're not going away. We're not backing down. And we're not asking for permission anymore. The transmission ended. Silence fell across the fleet. Minutes passed like hours. Then, finally, a response came. Chancellor Zyn appeared on screen, their mercury-like form reflecting inner turmoil. Dr. Vasquez. Your diplomatic skills have apparently improved. I learned from my mistakes, Elena replied. The question is, have you? Another pause. Then, something remarkable, Zyn's form shifted, their patterns rearranging into what Elena recognized as their species' gesture of respect. Perhaps we all have, Zyn said slowly. Very well. Let us talk. But not here, surrounded by weapons and threats. Send a delegation to the surface. We will discuss these, new possibilities. The negotiations took 3 weeks. Heated, exhausting, sometimes seeming impossible. But in the end, agreement emerged. The Galactic Congress would be dissolved. In its place, the Council of Free Worlds, a democratic assembly where each member species held equal representation. Humanity would be a founding member, as would the Sylvari Confederation, the Kresh Dominion, and even, surprisingly, the Vorian Empire, whose people had voted to join the new order. Chancellor Zyn, to their credit, advocated for peaceful transition. Many of the old Congress members resisted, but without their supreme leader's support, their power crumbled. 6 months later, Elena stood in a very different assembly hall, smaller, less imposing, designed for cooperation rather than domination. Around her, representatives from 200 species gathered for the council's inaugural session. Kale waited at the back of the hall, no longer in military uniform but civilian clothes. He caught her eye and smiled, that private smile he saved just for her. The Council of Free Worlds is now in session, Ambassador Thora announced, her light form brilliant with hope. Let us begin by acknowledging that we gather here not as conquerors and conquered, not as old civilizations and young, but as equals. Each of us brings different strengths, different perspectives, different dreams for the future. And each of us, Elena added, stepping forward to address the assembly, has the right to pursue those dreams without fear of containment or control. That is the promise we make today. That is the galaxy we will build together. The vote on the Council's charter was not unanimous. It was better than unanimous, it was honest. Some species supported it enthusiastically. Others cautiously. A few abstained, wanting more time to decide. But it passed, and for the first time in galactic history, that diversity of opinion was celebrated rather than crushed. That evening, Elena and Kale stood on a balcony overlooking the new council headquarters. Below them, beings from across the galaxy mingled freely, sharing food, music, and stories. The sound of 100 languages formed a symphony of possibility. We actually did it, Elena said, still somewhat disbelieving. You did it, Kale corrected. I just shot things when necessary. She laughed, the sound genuine and light. Pretty sure it was a team effort. Speaking of which, Cale reached into his pocket, pulling out something small. I believe I made you a promise. About that beach in Australia. Elena's breath caught as she saw what he held, a simple ring, made from metals mined on a dozen different worlds, forged in the fires of revolution. Elena Vasquez, Cale said softly, kneeling before her as the galaxy's new leaders looked on with smiles. Will you take a break from saving the universe long enough to marry me? Tears streamed down her face, but her voice was steady. Yes. Yes, absolutely yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger, stood, and kissed her as applause erupted from the balconies and gardens below. Humans and aliens alike celebrated this small, perfect moment of joy amid the larger victory. 2 weeks later, they kept that promise. On a beach in Australia, with their closest friends gathered, Elena and Cale were married under stars that humanity could now travel freely. Una served as best woman, Thora as maid of honor. Even Draven attended, his mandibles clicking in what everyone had learned to recognize as contentment. As the sun set, painting the ocean in impossible colors, Elena and Cale walked along the shore, hands intertwined. What do we do now? Elena asked, though she was smiling. Now. Cale pulled her close. Now we live. We explore. We build. We make mistakes and fix them. We prove that the galaxy they feared, the one where humans are free to reach their potential, is better than anyone imagined. Together, Elena said. Together, Cale agreed. Above them, the stars began to appear, no longer forbidden, no longer distant. Just infinite possibility, waiting to be explored. Humanity had been cast out of the galaxy once, deemed too dangerous to be allowed among the civilized species. They'd been quarantined, contained, counted out. But they'd refused to accept that verdict. They'd fought, not for domination, but for the simple right to exist as equals. And in doing so, they'd torn down an empire and built something better in its place. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, Elena thought as she kissed her husband under the emerging stars, was exactly the point. The end.